Masechet Baba Batra, Daf, Kof, Samech, He. The Mishnah taught the differences between a get pashut and a get mikushar. And Tanakama said that a get pashut, you have to sign on the front, and if they sign on the back, then it's no good. And a get mikushar, you have to sign on the back, and if you sign on the front, then that's no good. And then we had another opinion that says, if you sign on the front, and there was a get mikushar, you can always turn a get mikushar into a pashut. You just open it up, and you turn it into a pashut. Now, according to those two opinions, it sounds like you can write a get pashut, you can write a get mikushad, right, depending on whatever you want. And then comes the third opinion, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel omer, hakol keminhag medina. Rashbag says you follow the regional custom. So that sounds like if the regional custom is to write a get pashut, then you cannot write a get mikushad, and vice versa. So now we ask about that. V'tanakama let leminhag medina. Does the Tanakama say you can ignore the regional custom? If you're living in a place where everybody writes a get mikushad, and then you go and you do a get pashut, so would he say that that's okay? Doesn't make sense, right? It seems that everybody should agree that you have to take into account the regional custom. So how come Rashbag, it sounds like he's disagreeing and saying, I think that you follow the regional custom, and what, the Tanakama doesn't think so? So what is the point of their machloket? אמר רבשי בעטרה דנהיגי פשוט, ואמר לעביד לי פשוט, והזל עבד למקושר כפדה. So Ravashi says, I'll tell you a simple case where everybody actually will agree. If you're living in a region where everybody makes a get pashut, that's the common custom. And then a person who's commissioning a document tells the scribe, please write me a get pashut. Let's say it's a husband who actually wants to divorce his wife, and he tells the scribe, write me a get pashut. But then the scribe, for some reason, goes against both the regional custom and against what the husband says, and he makes a get mikushar. I don't know, he feels like that they're making a get mikushar, then that document is invalid. Kepeda. It means that the husband is particular. He wanted specifically a get pashut. Now, in order for a get to be valid, it has to be given by the husband's will, and has to be commissioned by the husband's will. The husband has to tell the scribe to write the get. So if he asked him to write it one way, and he wrote it a different way, then that's lacking the will of the husband. And therefore, if you use that get, it's no good. So this is a problem, and everybody would agree with that. And another easy case. If it's a region where everybody writes a get mikushad, and the husband says to the scribe, write me a get mikushad, and then the scribe doesn't listen, and he goes and writes a get pashut, also, that means that the husband is particular, and he really wants to get mikushad, and therefore, this cannot be used as a get, because it was not written with the husband's consent and will. So those are easy cases where everybody would take into account the regional custom. Ki peligi be'atrat nihigi be'pashut mekushar, v'amar le'abid li pashut, v'azal abad le'mekushar mor sabar kepeda, u'mor sabar mar'e makom hu lo. Rather, where Tanakama disagrees with Rashbag is in a place where the custom is some people write it pashut and some people write it mekushar. In this area, people use both of them. And then the husband says, make me a get pashut. But then the scribe doesn't do exactly what the husband says. He goes and makes a get mikushar. Mor sabar kepeda or mor sabar mar'e makom hu lo. One master, that is the Tanakama, says, we assume that the husband in fact was particular. We're in a place where people write both, so we can't tell anything from the region. And the husband says, I want to get pashut. So that means he really wants to get pashut, and therefore, if the scribe goes ahead and makes a get mikushad, it is invalid. Whereas Rashbag says that when the husband says, make me a get pashut, he wasn't being particular that he only wants to get pashut. He was just giving a suggestion. He was saying, listen, write me a get, and it's okay if you want to write a get pashut. I don't need anything fancy. I don't need a get mikushad. You don't have to spend extra time. Make me any get, and it can even be a get pashut. He was only giving a suggestion, not saying that he's actually particular. And so Rashbag, you see that he takes more into account the regional custom. Since the regional custom is, some people write get mikushar, some people write get pashut. Since both are used in the region, So we follow the regional custom, and we say, well, since people use both, therefore, whatever the scribe makes, that will be fine. And the fact that the husband said, oh, make me a pashut, we ignore that. He didn't mean it has to be a pashut. He was just saying, if you want to make a pashut, that's fine. So you see here that Rashbag takes more into account the regional custom, and as long as it's in line with the regional custom, then it's fine. Unless the husband says, explicitly, I do not want a mekushad, I only want a get pashut. Okay, then you have to follow what he says. But otherwise, we assume that he's okay with the regional custom. That's why Rashbag says, I follow the regional custom, whereas Tanakama does not take into account the regional custom as much as the actual words of the husband. Amar Abaye, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, V'Rabbi Shimon, V'Rabbi Elazar, Kulhu Sibidahu Lehu, Mar'eh Makom Hu Lo. And now Abaye sees a pattern that these three sages all think that when someone speaks, when they say something, that often they are just giving a suggestion. They're just indicating a position, but they're not being particular that it has to be this way. So all these three, let's see what the three are. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Hada Amaran. Rashbag, that's what we just said. Even though the husband says, write me a get pashut, he didn't mean it has to be a get pashut. It's like saying, write me a get, but in his standard in his mind is a get pashut. He's saying, it's okay, write me a get pashut, whatever, any kind of get you want, I just need a get. And so the scribe can write anything that he wants as long as it's in a place where both are used. Rabbi Shimon ditnan. Rabbi Shimon omer imit'a leshebach harezo mekudeshet. Rabbi Shimon his opinion is seen in the following Mishnah that says, if let's say there's a bride and a groom, and the groom sends a message. Let's say they're not together, and says, I'm going to give you a silver coin to do kiddushin. And then the bride tells her messenger, listen, go to the husband, and I want you to accept a silver coin. She's saying, yes, I'm fine with the silver coin. And now, actually, he tricked her. But he tricked her for her benefit. And when the messenger comes, he gives the messenger a golden coin. So you might think, well, she only agreed to a silver coin. She sends a silver coin because that's what he said. And now there's a golden coin. Maybe she would not want to be engaged with a golden coin. Maybe she doesn't want a husband that's so spoiled or vain. She wants something simple and humble, whatever the reason. You might think that. And so this is Rabbi Shimon says, no, I disagree with that opinion. I think that it is Harezo Mikudeshet. Why? Because she wasn't saying that she's particular. I will only marry you for a silver coin. She was saying a silver coin is sufficient, right? Whatever you send, I just want to be married. So she's telling the messenger, go and get a silver coin. She meant go and get a coin, right? Whatever it is. She didn't mean that it has to be a silver coin and not a golden coin. But certainly she would accept a golden coin as well. So you see, Shimon says also, we don't look so carefully at the words in particular because we assume that what they meant is a suggestion. Rabbi Elazar titnan, האישה שמרה התקבל לגיטימי ממקום פלוני וקיבלו לה ממקום אחר פסול. ורבי אלעזר מכשיר, מור סבר כפדה או מור סבר מראה מקום הוא לא. And the third view that is in line with the other two opinions is Rabbi Elazar, who says in the Mishnah Masechet Gitin, if a woman tells her messenger, go and accept a get for me in this place, in Yerushalayim. She's living in Efrat. She says, go and get and collect my get from my husband in Yerushalayim. And then the messenger is going, and he ends up going to Tel Aviv. And the husband is in Tel Aviv, and he receives the get in Tel Aviv. According to Tanakama, it's no good, because he didn't follow through with the instructions of the woman. The messenger can only accept it with the will of the wife. She has to be willing to make this person a messenger. And she gave a condition. She said, only accept it in Jerusalem. So therefore, if the messenger accepts it somewhere else, the messenger happens to meet the husband while he's on the way or somewhere else, then it's no good, according to Tanakama. Rabbi Shimon, however, says it's fine. So what's the difference? More Sabar Tanakama says the wife is particular. When she says, go and get it in Jerusalem, she meant, I only want the divorce to take effect when it is given in Jerusalem. She has some reason that's important for her. However, Rabbi Elazar says, when she says go and get in Jerusalem, she's only giving a suggestion about where the husband is likely to be. So I know on Tuesdays, usually he's in Yerushalayim. So go and receive it in Yerushalayim. She's only giving some direction for where the messenger should get it. But it doesn't mean that it has to be. She's not particular about it. And if the messenger gets a message that, this Tuesday he actually has a meeting in Tel Aviv and he goes there, that's fine. Then it can be accepted in Tel Aviv. So we see that these are three Tanaim who all think that you don't have to look at the particular details of a statement when someone gives instructions, but rather that in these cases, we assume the person is only giving a suggestion. All right, the Mishnah said, Pashut shekata bo ayed echad. Another difference between Pashut and Mikushad is the number of witnesses. A get, Pashut, needs 2 witnesses. And the Mishnah says, if there's one, then it's invalid. And a get mikusha needs 3 witnesses. And if there's only 2, then that's invalid. Let's analyze. Bishlama mikusha shekatu bo shnei adim pasul isterich. Saka datecha meno il ba'alma kasher, hachana mekasher kamashmalan de pasul. So I understand why the Mishnah needs to tell me that in get mikushar, it needs 3, and if there's only 2, then it's invalid. It has to teach me that, because I would have thought, since usually in the rest of halacha, 2 witnesses is valid. That's standard for lots of things, for even capital punishment. So I would think that if a get mekushad has 2, b'diavad is kasher. I might think, okay, lecha techila is supposed to have 3, but if it's 2, that's still, b'diavad is still okay. And that's why the Mishnah has to come teach, no, it's pasul, it's invalid. So that's a chidush. Ela pashut shekata bo'ed echad peshita. But why does the Mishnah have to tell me that a simple get that has 1 witness is no good? Isn't that obvious? It's obvious that 1 witness is no good. There are certain instances where 1 witness is believed, like to tell you something is kosher, or to say that someone's husband has died overseas. There are some things, but generally for monetary cases, you need 2 witnesses. And for a get, you need 2 witnesses. And so therefore, isn't it obvious that if a document has only 1 witness, it's invalid? Why does Mishnah even have to bother teaching that to us? Abaya says there is actually an extra law that we're learning from this Mishnah, which is in a case where 1 witness is written in a document and 1 witness is giving his testimony orally. And the question is, would they combine? You might think they would. So you have a case, let's say, it says in a loan that this person borrowed $100 from that person, but there's only 1 witness. But then there's another witness that says orally, I was there also, and I testify by mouth that this is true. So you might think that they would combine in that case. And that's why the Mishnah comes to teach that a get pashut that has only 1 witness is invalid. Of course, it's invalid by itself. That's obvious. It's not only that, it's also invalid even if there's another witness that's not written in the document that can testify alongside. Still, it's no good according to Abaye. But actually, there is another opinion. Amemar says it's kosher. You have 2 witnesses, and even if 1 is written in a document and 1 is testifying orally, they can combine. And if they both say that this person lent $100 to that person, then they're going to have to pay $100 back. Amar le Rav Asher Amemar. V'had Abaye mai. And so Rav Asher es Amemar. What about Abaye? Abaye says that they do not combine, that you cannot have 1 witness in writing and 1 oral. Amar le la shemi ali, kelamar la sabir ali. Amemar, they're both Amoraim, Abaye and Amemar. So Amar says, I never heard of it, meaning he doesn't agree with it. Whether he heard it or not, maybe he did hear of it, but he disagrees. So this machloket between Amoraim. Amemar thinks that is totally fine. Ela kashya matnitin. Okay, you can disagree with Abaye, but you can't disagree with the Mishnah. And the Mishnah came and said that a get pashut that has 1 witness is invalid. And it's going out of its way to say that. It's coming to teach me something else, isn't it? It can't just be teaching me that 1 witness is invalid. I know that. So it must be teaching us, as Abaye said, that 1 witness in a document is invalid, even if you're joined by another witness who's speaking orally. verbally. So how are you going against the Mishnah? And the answer is Hakamash Malan. Dishnai b'mekushar k'ayd echad b'pashut. Ma'atam pesula deoraita, afacha name pesula deoraita. And Memar says, no, I think that the Mishnah is teaching us a different point, not teaching us what Abaye said, but rather that two in a signed in a tie document is teaching us is equivalent to one witness in a get pashut. Just like in a get pashut, if you have only one witness, and that's it. Just so you have only one witness signed in it and no one else, no oral witness that joins along. If you have just one witness in a document, it's no good on the deoraita level. It's not at all. It's not good lechatechila. It's not good midrabanan. It's not good at all. So too with the get mikushar, I might have thought that, all right, you need three, but maybe if you only have two, maybe three is required midoraita, but midrabanan. 3 is required midrabanan, but the midoraita 2 is enough, so maybe b'diavad it's okay. You might have thought that, and that's why the Mishnah comes to compare them to tell me that a get mikushad, if you have only 2 witnesses, then it's no good. It's disqualified on all levels, even on a deoraita level. The requirement for 3 witnesses is not just an added stringency. It's not a suggestion. It's not a drabanan. The 3 is required mideoraita. So that would mean that if you used such a document, a get mikushad, with only 2 witnesses, let's say you used it as a get to get divorced, or in a monetary case, then it would be like nothing, just like an empty piece of paper. It's just like if you gave a divorce document with only 1 witness, or you used a document to collect a loan with only 1 witness and no other witness. It's not like if it was $100, you could collect $50 because there's only 1 witness and not 2. No, it's worth nothing. And according to my Memar, that's what the Mishnah is teaching. Teda dishlachu mitam habraya leRabbi Yirmiah, and we have a proof for Amemar from a question that the colleagues from there, meaning from Eretz Yisrael, sent to Rabbi Yirmiah. Rabbi Yirmiah at this point was in Bavel, and they asked him the following questions. In order to understand the next series of questions, we have to learn about 2 mahalokot that are mentioned in a Braita in Masechet Sanhedrin. The first one is between Tanakama and Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha. Let's say you have a case like this. On Monday, one witness sees A borrow money from B, $100. On Tuesday, a different witness sees the same thing, that on Tuesday also, A borrowed $100 from B. The question is, can these 2 witnesses join together to make up 2 witnesses? They come later on and they say, listen, I saw that A borrowed $100 from B, and therefore A has to pay back B $100. And the other witness says, I saw that on Tuesday, but what they both agree on is that A owes B $100. So can you combine 2 witnesses even though they were not together? They did not see the same thing at the same time. Can they combine as witnesses since their testimony is in agreement with the basic result, the same punishment or the same payment? Can they join together? Tanakama says no. Witnesses have to be at an event, at the same place, at the same time, together in order to testify together, whereas Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha says that even if they were separate at the time that they saw whatever they saw, and even if they saw 2 different things, but with the same result, they can join together. That is the first machloket. The second machloket is about whether 2 witnesses can testify separately. According to Tanakama, 2 witnesses that saw something, they have to come to the same court at the same time and testify together. In fact, the court is going to separate them and ask them questions separately. But the point is they have to show up together and present their testimony together on the same day. Whereas Rabbi Natan says it's okay if one witness comes today and another witness comes tomorrow. Then the court, since the court was there for both of them, then they can join together the 2 testimonies, and it was the same as 2 witnesses coming at the same time. They don't have to come at the same time. They can come even on different days. Okay, that's the 2 machlokot. Now, so now we're going to bring a proof for Amemad from the question that was sent to Rabbi Yirmiah. Here's the question. The question was, if you have one witness about something that was written in a document and another witness about that thing, but that he was not signed in the document, it's oral. Can they join together? So first we're going to clarify the question. Alibad de Tanakama de Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha lati ba'elach. Ta'afilu shenaim bichtav u'shnaim al peh la mistarfeh. This is easy to answer according to the Tanakama, who disagrees with Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha. You don't even have to ask that, because that Tanakama says even if both of them are in a written document or both of them are giving testimony orally, they don't join together, right? If they are not, if they didn't see the same thing at the same time together, then they cannot join together. So too here, all the more so here, where one of the witnesses is signed on a document. The one that's signed on a document, he is not actually testifying to the event that happened. He's only signing that in this case, let's say it's a borrower. The borrower said that, can you sign this document for me? If the borrower sign this document that says, I owe someone $100, then that person can sign just based on the borrower saying, I'm asking you to sign, even if he doesn't actually see the loan. So the person signed on the document is simply testifying that the borrower agreed that he owes the money, whereas the oral testimony is testifying that he actually saw the loan take place. So this case is in fact similar to the case in the Baraita, the Machloket, because they are testifying in fact about two different things, two different parts of the same it's the same loan here in this case, but one is actually seeing the loan, one is witnessing the borrower say, hey, can you sign this? Because I do in fact admit that I owe him $100 from a loan that he's about to make or that he already made. And so according to the Tanakama, who says that two witnesses cannot join together even if they're both testifying orally, so all the more so he would say that they cannot join together if one is oral and one is in writing. So that's not the question that we're asking. Rather, this question that they're asking only makes sense as a question according to Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha, because he says, "Shenaim bichtav u'shnaim ba'al peh hu de mistarfeh, aval ed echad bichtav ed echad al peh la misarfinan, or di'amar lo shena." Here's the two sides. Maybe Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha says that two witnesses that are both written, then they can join together, even though they each one witnessed it at different times, different things. But if they're both, as long as they're both presented in writing, that's okay. Or if they're both of them are oral, so they both one saw on Tuesday, one saw on Monday, that this guy owes $100, and they're both coming in and they're presenting their testimony both orally, then they can join together. Fine. But what if one is in writing and one is oral? Then do they not join together because now these are different types of testimony? Or maybe Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha would say it doesn't matter and they can join together. That's the question that was sent to Rabbi Yirmiah, and here's his answer. Shelach lehu, ani kedai sheshelachtem li, ela kach dat tamidchem nota sheyistarefu. Says, I am not worthy that you sent me this question. I am just a lowly sage, and this is a very difficult question that you are asking me, but you asked me, now that you asked me, I'll give my opinion. Your student thinks as follows. He's referring to himself. Oh, it's very nice. He's being humble. It's a big question. And you, great sages, you're asking me, a lowly student. But as my student, I'll tell you what I think. My judgment would lean to say that, yes, you can combine them. Even though they're testifying about different aspects of something. And they're also coming and testifying in two different forms. One in writing and one orally. Nevertheless, it seems to me that it would be able to join. What we see here is that Rabbi Yirmiah is in agreement with Amemad, and so this is an added proof for Amemar's opinion, to bolster his opinion. And so, right, we have something better. This is on the side of Amemar. Amar le, anan hachi matninan la. However, Rav Asher says, oh, you got that story not in a version that I heard it. Rav Asher says to Amemar. Amemar says, that you heard that's the question that they asked, and that's what Yirmiah answered, and that's a proof to you. Rav Asher says, I also heard a story about a question being sent to Rabbi Yirmiah, but I heard the question differently. Dishlachu lech Rabbi Yirmiah. Shenaim she'idu echad bebet din zeh, ve'echad bebet din zeh. Ma'u shebo bet din esel bet din ve'yistarefu. The question was about two witnesses. They saw something together. And one of them comes to one court in Yerushalayim and gives his testimony. And the other gives his testimony in a court in Tel Aviv. Can the Batei Din get together? All the judges, 3 judges from Yerushalayim, 3 judges from Tel Aviv. Can the judges get together, compare notes, and accept the witnesses as a group of 2 witnesses and it be valid? That was the question that was asked. Now let's clarify the question. If you're going to look at the Tanakama who disagrees with Rabbi Natan, then you wouldn't have to bother asking this question, because that Tanakama says even in the same Bet Din, we would not join them together. If you have 2 witnesses, both of them saw a murder, the same place at the same time, they were together. But then when they come into court, they couldn't come in at the same time. One comes in on Wednesday. One comes in and gives his testimony on Thursday to the very same court. Rabbi Tanakama says it's no good. They have to come in together. So all the more so, if they come into different courts, all the more so they're not going to join together. But the question does make sense according to Rabbi Natan. Would he say that we can join together 2 witnesses in one Bet Din, even if they come on different days? The same Bet Din, the same judges are there, and they can hear this one and they can hear that one, and they can process them and compare them and ask their questions. That can join. But if it's 2 different courts, then they cannot join. That's very difficult for 2 different courts different people heard the 2 witnesses. How are they going to coordinate them and really understand if they said exactly the same thing or pick up on nuances of difference? And so that cannot join together. Or maybe he'll say there's no difference. And just like 2 witnesses come on different days, 2 witnesses can also come to different places, different courts, and the courts will get together, and then they can join together. The 2 witnesses. That was the question. Ushlach lehu ani kedai shatem shelachtem li elakach da'at tamidchem nota sheyistarefu. And Rabbi Natan says, I am not worthy that you should ask me this question. You are great sages, but if you're asking my opinion, then my judgment would lean towards yes. And according to Rabbi Natan, the 2 witnesses can be joined together even if they go to 2 different courts in 2 different places. All right. So far we have 2 versions of the story. And now we're going to see a couple more. Mor bar Chia amar hachi shelachu le. So Mor bar Chia says, no, that wasn't the question. This is the question that was asked to Rabbi Yirmiah. Shenaim she'idu bebet din ze vechazru ve'idu bebet din ze ma'u she'avo echad mikol bet din ve'yistarefu. Let's say you have 2 witnesses. They saw a murder, and so they come and they testify in front of court number 1 in Yerushalayim. There's 3 judges there. But then something happened and 2 of those judges had to go away and there's only 1 judge left. Now these 2 witnesses, they then went to Tel Aviv and went to a court there, and they gave the very same judgment there in front of 3 judges. But turns out 2 of those judges also had to go away and left only 1. So then it doesn't say 3 times here, but we have to assume that this happened 3 times, not just 2. And then they went to another court in Haifa and they gave the same judgment about the same murder in front of 3 judges, and then also only 1 was left, 2 were not available. Can one of the judges from each of the courts come together to form another Bet Din, and since each one of those judges heard the same testimony, so can they join together, even though they heard them separately on 3 different occasions, although it was from the same 2 witnesses? Can that join together, and then can they judge the case based on those 2 witnesses? So according to Binatan, there's no need to ask this question, because if witnesses can join together, then judges all the more so. If you could have a witness come today in one place, and the other witness come tomorrow, and we join together the witnesses, and so then all the more so judges are more worthy, more reliable, so you should be able to join judges together. The question, however, is difficult according to Tanakama, the one who disagrees with Rabbi Natan. Would they say that witnesses cannot join together? One testifies today, one testifies tomorrow. That's no good. The witnesses have to be together. But judges, maybe you'd say that judges are more reliable and trustworthy, and therefore they can join together, or maybe not. Maybe no, not judges and not witnesses. Neither of them can join together. Shelach lehu ani kedai she'atem shelachtem li ela kach da'at tamidchem nota sheyistarefu. This is the question that was sent, and Yirmiah again here says, I am unworthy that you should ask me, but if you really want to know the opinion of your student, my judgment leans to say that yes, they can be combined. Even according to Tanakama, who says witnesses cannot combine, he would say that judges can combine. And now we have a 4th and last version of this story. It's not clear if they're all arguing. I mean, actually could be that they sent more than one question to Rabbi Yirmiah at the same time or at different times. So it's not necessary, although it seems like the first 2 are arguing because the first one was brought by Amemad as a proof. And Rav Ashi says, no, that's not a proof because that wasn't the question, this was the question. Okay, so, and all the questions are actually similar in style. So perhaps they are arguing, and there was one question, something about someone joining together and relating to one of these 2 mahalokot. And so now we're just asking what exactly was the question, but they're all about joining together. So the last version, Ravina Amar, Hachi shelachule, shelosha sheyashvu lakayem et hashetar, umet echad mehen, sirichi demichtab bemotav telata havena vechad letohi o la. Ravina says this is not related to the machloket in that braita above, but a simpler case of 3 judges that sat down and they ratified the document, right? They checked the witnesses. Yes, these witnesses in fact signed this, and so they're about to ratify the document. But then, before they could sign on the bottom, we saw before, you have a document, you have 2 signatures, and then the judges will sign on the bottom, right? We ratified this document, and the judges will sign their names. So let's say they do that, and before they get to sign the ratification on the bottom of the document, one of the judges dies. So do they have to write, we were 3 sitting in a group, but one of them is no longer with us. One of them died. Do they have to write that it was 3 so that everybody will know that it was ratified, in fact, in front of 3? Or is it sufficient for 2 of them, the two that remain, that survive, to sign, since that's all you need is 2 signatures, and they don't have to write that there was a 3rd judge. Shelach lehu, ani kedai she'atem shelachtem li, ela kach da'atem yedechem nota, shechin michtab umotav telata, havena vechad letohi. They sent that to the Yirmiah, and he says, I am not worthy that you should ask me, but this is the opinion of your student. I am inclined to say that they have to write, we were sitting in a group of 3 judges and one is no longer alive, so that it will be very clear that it was in fact ratified before a Bet Din of 3, and nobody will be able to claim that the ratification is not valid because look, there's only 2 people here, and they'll say it wasn't really ratified, not in front of a Bet Din. So they should write that it was, in fact, ratified in front of 3. And it was based on this answer that they allowed Rabbi Yirmiah to come back into the Bet Midrash. All the way back in the beginning of the Masechet on Daf Kaf Gimel, we saw a story where the Yirmiah asks a wise guy question. The question was about a bird that's found 50 amot from a dovecote. If it's within 50, then it belongs to the owner of the dovecote. If it's beyond 50 amot, then finders keepers. And Yirmiah came and asked, what if 1 foot is within 50 and 1 foot was outside of 50? And they thought that this was a wise guy question, just making fun of them. And so they said, you are half in, half out. We're going to kick you out. And they kicked him out of the Bet Midrash for that question. And so Rabbi Yirmiah, if that was in Eretz Yisrael, what was he going to do? So he went to Bavel, and so he could study over there. But even though they kicked him out, they were asking him some questions because Rabbi Yirmiah was very sharp and very good at asking these nitty-gritty, detailed questions. And so they sent it to him. And when he answered in a very humble way, he says, I am not worthy. So then they saw that he made teshuvah and that he wasn't meaning to be a wise guy and was not looking to make fun of anybody. So then they said, okay, now you're worthy to re-enter back into the Bet Midrash. Next Mishnah, Katubo Zuzin me'ad inun sela'in esrin, en lo ela estin. Someone writes in a loan document, says, you owe me 100 zuz, which is 20 selah. Now, this is wrong. So they did the math wrong because there are 4 zuz in a selah. So actually 20 selah is only 80 zuz. Then, so what can he collect? Well, the lender who has this document can only collect the lesser of the two amounts, which in this case is the 20 selah, because it would be up to him to prove that what was actually owed. Was it 100 zuz or only 80? And so since it has a double language, he can only collect the lesser of the amounts. And the other way around, zuzin me'adinun telatin sela'in en lo ela maneh. If it says you owe me 100 zuz, which is 30 selah, 30 selah, that's times 4, is 120 zuz. He can only collect the 100 zuz, and again, the lesser amount. We don't know where the mistake happened, if it was in the first number or the second number, but since the second number is there to clarify the first number, and so we don't know which one he made a mistake on, therefore he can only collect the lower one. Kesef zuzin di'inun v'nimchak en pachot mishetayim. Let's say it says, you owe me silver dinars, which are, and then the number is erased. I don't know if it said in there 2, 10, 100, 1,000 silver dinars, the number is erased. Well, then he can only collect 2, because we know it was plural, since it says kesef zuzin, which is plural, but you cannot assume it's any more than 2. He would have to prove otherwise. Otherwise, he can only collect 2. Kesef sela'in de'inun v'nimchak en pachot mishetayim. As if it says silver selah, which are selahs, which are, and then it was erased. So then he can only collect 2 silver selah. In the first case, it was a dinar, so then he has to pay dinar. But here it's plural of selah, so you can only collect selah. Darkonot di'inun v'nimchak en pachot mishetayim. If he says derricks that are, and it leaves out, the number is erased, then he can only collect 2 derricks. So it would be, the point is that the denomination of the type of coin is written, so he has to pay some of those, but the number is erased, but it's plural, so he has to pay 2. Katub bo milama'ala maneh u'milamata matayim. Milama'ala matayim u'milamata maneh. Hakol olech achar ha'tachton. In the usual format of a loan document, you put the number, the amount, twice. Once at the beginning of the document, and again at the end of the document. Not the last line. We saw that last line we ignore is only a summary, but before the last line, we put the number again. Now, hopefully they agree. They should put the same number, the same thing. But what if you make a mistake? And above it says 100 dinar, and then on the bottom it says 200, or the other way around. On the top it says 200, on the bottom it says 100. So then you always follow the second one, the last one, because if there's a difference in it, we assume that, okay, maybe he changed his mind in between, and the second one, the one that's written later, supersedes the the first one. This is different from the Resha. In the Resha, you have two numbers back to back that are meant to clarify each other. I'm just giving you the same thing in different types of coins. But since they're clarifying each other, it's not that he's changing his mind, it's just a mistake, but we don't know which number is the mistake and which one is the real one. Therefore, you have to pick the lower amount. But here, this is the same number that's written twice in two different places in the document. And so therefore, we follow the lower one, the second one, because we assume that that's what he actually meant. And whatever he wrote above, that was his original opinion, but he changed his mind. Now, if you're always going to follow the second one, so why bother writing the first one in the first place? Why write the number twice in a document? Just write it at the end, because if there's ever a difference, we're always going to ignore the first one anyway. And the answer is Shim timachek ot achat min hatachton yilamed min ha'alyon, because it's a backup. Just in case one of the letters of the lower number gets erased, and we're just talking about how here numbers get erased. Could be not on purpose, it just could be after time. It's hard to read. It got rubbed out. So just in case, if even one letter of the lower one will get erased, then we'll look at the upper one to clarify what that letter was. And so the upper number is there as a backup. So that's good. So if the lower number is not clear, then we'll use the upper one. But if they disagree, then we follow the lower one. And tomorrow we'll see the Gemara on this Mishnah. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.